Hey everybody, welcome to PC Perspective. I'm Ryan Schrout. A few weeks ago on the PC Perspective podcast, we talked about a new all-in-one computer that MSI announced that utilized the GeForce GTX 980M mobile graphics. That is what we have here in front of us today. We're reviewing the MSI AG270 2QE, which is the full model number of the device, and then the specific build out we have is called the 037US. Now all that means is that those last handful of digits tell you what kind of memory configuration you have, storage configuration, things like that. So that'll be the variation you see across the line. But the AG270 2QE is this latest revision, I guess, with the highest end GTX 980M mobility graphics from NVIDIA. Now, in terms of general specifications, what we have here is an all-in-one computer. It does not have a battery. It's not like some of those other all-in-ones you may have seen or heard about. It is a 1080p screen. It's a matte finish, which you can probably tell through the video and pictures. It is a touchscreen as well, 10-point touchscreen. The monitor itself is, I would say, of pretty good quality. The matte finish itself is maybe a bit overly matte in terms of viewing angles and things like that, and the color and everything is great. It's definitely got good color at different viewing angles, but you kind of get washed out view because of the touchscreen layer to it, as well as the matte screen layer to it. It is 1920 by 1080, which comes into play when we talk about our graphics benchmarks, of course. The CPU inside of it is a mobility part. It's the Core i7-4870HQ, which is actually a quad-core hyper-threaded processor. It has a base clock speed of 2.5 gigahertz and a boost clock speed of 3.7 gigahertz, so a very, very, very fast processor from Intel in that regard. It does have the GTX 980M. It's got 8 gigs of graphics memory on there, so way more than you really need, and more than most of the desktop graphics cards, discrete cards, actually have. You've got 16 gigs of DDR3 memory just for system memory in there. Storage, you have a pair of 128 gig M.2 PCIe SSDs running in RAID 0, so you have a single 256 gig partition for that. Very, very fast. Our AIO scores were incredibly fast for that. And then for long-term storage, or for storage in general, we have a 7200 RPM 2 terabyte mobile hard drive in the system as well. You got a Blu-ray burner if you're interested in that. Connectivity-wise, you've got 802.11ac, courtesy of an Intel controller. You have gigabit Ethernet, courtesy of a Killer Networks controller. You've got HDMI input and output, which is interesting. You've got 4 USB 3.0 ports, memory card reader, and you've got 5-watt speakers. They're okay. I mean, they're integrated monitor speakers, maybe a little bit better than some of the generic stuff that you see on just displays, but I think obviously if you're a gamer and you're buying this for gaming purposes, which obviously you should be, you're either going to have headphones or you're going to have better 5.1 channel speakers that you can connect up to a system like this. It has a 230 watt power adapter, which is pretty big, but it gives you an idea of how much power consumption you're looking at when dealing with this type of device. And otherwise, you've got a kickstand on the side so you can adjust viewing angles, and it's noise-wise, sound-wise, when we were gaming on it, you could hear the fans, but again, if you're gaming with, you know, loud 5.1 channel speakers or headphones, it's really not going to be a concern. Performance. Let's talk about performance. Processor performance is through the roof. I mean, really, you're on par with desktop class Core i5 processors that are quad core, maybe without hyper threading, and kind of fit in between that in your performance envelopes. And then the GTX 980M has 1536 CUDA cores, right? So you're talking about essentially the same performance levels as a GTX 770, but this is Maxwell. GTX 770 is Kepler, so the cores on this are going to be more efficient and a little bit more powerful in that regards, which is interesting because when we were doing our testing, it is a 1920 by 1080 screen, and we basically had no problems maxing out all of the graphics settings in games like Metro Last Light or Crysis 3 or Battlefield 4. They really weren't that much of a workout for this type of system. Now, what that does allow you to do is have some headroom for future games. You look at some of the releases like Assassin's Creed Unity, obviously that had a lot of performance issues. You'd have a better chance of success with this kind of mobile hardware than you would with anything less than that. It also allows you to have GPU headroom to use for game streaming, for example. If you want to use GPU compute portions for streaming out your games to Twitch, you can do that, and you have plenty of GPU headroom for that. Speaking of, MSI does include a copy of the XSplit Gamecaster version of the software for you to use, and then you can go through all those options of selecting if you want to use CPU or GPU for your transcoding portion in that regard. We tested it out for a little bit, and obviously I think GPU produced the best overall experience. Pricing, that's where it gets a little bit tougher to defend the MSI AG270 2QE, as I make sure I get those model numbers there. This particular model is selling for about $2,500, $2,600 as you see it, right? So that's quad-core processor, GTX 980M, you get the display, obviously optical drives and everything that we've talked about. That's expensive in terms of gaming performance levels, right? If you were to build a somewhat equivalent PC desktop system, you're probably looking at $1,300 to $1,400 worth of hardware, plus add in your keyboard, mouse, monitor, and some other little things like that that will add up to, you know, maybe $1,500 to $1,600 to $1,700. So you're definitely paying a premium for what is essentially a super high-powered mobile gaming laptop put into an all-in-one form factor. Now, there are still advantages to this, like if you often go to LAN parties or you go over to friends' houses and you guys want to play PC games, this is a great option for that because it's already got your screen and part of it, and it's a bigger screen. It is a 27-inch display, whereas with a gaming laptop, you're either going to use that 17-inch integrated screen, for example, or you're going to have to cart around a separate display as well. It does have gigabit Ethernet on there. It comes with a keyboard and mouse that are okay, but again, if you're a serious PC gamer considering hardware like this, you'll probably buy one of those yourselves. Again, this would be a good machine for a house that maybe has some PC gamers in it, but also has mom and dad that don't want to do anything like that, and they just want a normal PC, and all-in-one is very convenient for that. And then they don't have to know about all the complicated and very high-performance hardware hiding inside of it that allow you to play Call of Duty Advanced Warfare or whatever at 75 frames per second at 1080p. So a very, very good all-in-one system, and I think for a gaming perspective, the best all-in-one system that we have seen for that particular use case. Just make sure this is really what you want before you go ahead and spend that money, because it is more expensive than just building your own desktop PC and using discrete graphics cards. So go to PCPer.com, check out, we have more benchmarks, photos of the outside, photos of the inside, if you want to see kind of how the mobility hardware is routed inside the AG270, and we'll have links in there for pricing as well if anything has changed since we recorded this video. For now, I'm Ryan Schraub. Thanks for watching.